real success stories told by the people who lived them.
We're going to have some guests on this show that everybody knows, and we're going to have guests on this show that nobody knows yet.
One by one, Nick Hyder is adding hits to the Hitstreak.
Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder, and joining me today all the way from Sarasota, I've got a double dose of star power joining me on the Hitstreak today. Folks, check it out. You've seen them on stages. You've seen them all around the country, starting businesses, doing all kinds of amazing things. Check it out. There's a laundry list of things that I could say about this couple right here. Let me just give you a couple things. First of all, they have started and grown multiple seven-figure businesses, including the $1 Million Plumber. They have launched 2 podcasts. From a guy that has launched one, I can tell you that's a statement in itself. And they have helped over 100 couple-run businesses over just the last 4 years. Folks, the founders of the Couplepreneur life, Richard and Laura Behney. What's happening, guys?
Hey Nick, it's fun to be with you here. Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
Well, we have lots and lots and lots to talk about now, don't we?
Sure.
Yeah, we do.
We'll talk about whatever you want.
Well, let's start with how I met you guys just not that long ago at the Couplepreneur Con, amazing event in Raleigh. And I had asked you guys a question in pre-production, but I'm gonna ask you again because, you guys have done so many of those events already, right? Because it was so professionally done, it was so amazing. You guys have done a ton of them, right?
A ton. Let's count them up. Let's see.
One. that was it. But thank you for being there. It was fun meeting you and your lovely wife, and we had great people there. But really, it was a fun event. Mm-hmm. But we really got to give kudos to the facility.
Right.
That's Stephen Scoggins.
Stephen Scoggins Media, right? One of brand builders as well.
In fact, Ed Milet had his book launch there. A couple others, have done stuff there. I mean, it's just a very nice facility. The team was right. The team was great. Mm-hmm. I liken it to being like a quarterback. And you can't help but do well or be the GOAT when you got a great offensive line and great receivers and that's what we had there. Mm-hmm. So it was able to take this Yahoo. I'm not going to include you,
folks. I'm telling you, this is going to be so much fun. Buckle up.
It was able to take this redneck Yahoo. And put them in that facility, and it really shines. Plus the other speakers we had there. Right. Man! So it was hard to, not put on a good program.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Pete Wilson was one of your speakers, and he was in here not long ago, shooting an episode with me, and we're huge fans of Candy. I mean, all of them really. What Jeremy was doing backstage with them was freaking incredible, man.
Yes.
Well, Jeremy. He's not going to see this, is he?
He will. The whole world's going to see it.
He is amazing. Right.
We love Jeremy Weber.
Yes.
He's one of our favorite people on the planet.
Yes.
So.
Absolutely. So you guys are like a husband and wife power couple, right? And, from somebody that loves working with my spouse as well, you hear about a lot of quite frankly, some of them are horror stories when people are learning how to do those things. It didn't work well for my parents. But there's lots and lots of couples that I'm figuring out through you guys that are just absolutely crushing life through your program, right? So tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, and I think people are, after the whole COVID fiasco, over the last few years, a lot of people are looking to be more entrepreneurial, right? They ended up being home and working from home, and they're like, wait a minute, I kind of like being at home, or I like having a little bit more flexible schedule. So I think we're finding more and more people are becoming entrepreneurs, whether it's solopreneurs or whatever. But couplepreneur is really a unique relationship. Richard says all the time, marriage is hard enough. Running and owning a business is hard enough. And then you put those two things together, if not done well or right, can really cause an awful lot of stress, and some marriages don't make it.
But we really are designed to work together. Mm-hmm. We're created to work together. Mm-hmm. But
Adam and Eve,
right?
A prime example.
But the friction or the rub comes. You got these two different points of view, two different abilities, talents. One may be a risk taker, the other's more pragmatic. Which all, put all those things together is what makes, that's the power. And that's what makes, certainly for a great relationship, but also in business, it makes for a great business. You need those things.
Right.
But how do you do that without killing each other? So that's
absolutely. There's a lot of like datelines and stuff that concerning all this type of thing. But again, it didn't work out for my parents, but my wife and I, it's all that we've known.
Really? You worked together the whole time you've been married?
All the time. Like we met in the workspace. We absolutely did. We met in the workspace.
Okay.
So,
well, the lovely Laura here was my boss. That's how we met.
That's right. Yeah, you guys. Your story was so fascinating when I heard it at the event. I wanted to share that with everybody today. Do me a favor though, like you guys have. You guys have an event coming up not too long from now where everybody's going to be at some, I don't know, this horrific place with this beautiful water and sand and all this type of stuff. Tell me a little bit. What is the Couplepreneur life?
The Couplepreneur life. Do you want to say exactly what it is or where it came from?
Well, both. Let's tell them both.
Okay. Well, the Couplepreneur life, we started that because, we are going to have to go a little bit farther back. We started a business 20 some years ago, a plumbing business from our kitchen table, from scratch, no money, had no clue what we were doing, and through an awful lot of trial and error and almost divorce. We grew it and eventually sold it 18 years later. And now, since that, once we sold it, we started coaching other husbands and wives who own a plumbing business, how to grow a business, right? So as Rory Baden always says, you're powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. So that was us, right? Again, we started out clueless. Richard was a plumber. I had office background or whatever, but we had no idea what we were doing. So we were able to grow the business and then eventually sell it. So we wanted to help those husbands and wives who are plumbing business owners, have a dream to have a plumbing company, but get it in it and then realize we have no idea what we're doing. So that's the people that we serve. So we started coaching, and we've got an online platform and things like that. But in some of our one-on-one coaching,
in some of them, it was like all of them.
Yeah,
we found we were doing half business coaching and half marriage coaching. Like we've been on a Zoom meeting and you can only see half of the husband and half of the wife because there's this continental divide between them. We're like, okay, what's going on, you guys? And again, more often than not, again, at least half the time we were doing marriage counseling. How do they work together? Because they just couldn't figure it out. Again,
it's a unique condition. Again, marriage is tough, business is tough. Now do both together. So how do you do that together and juggle family, friends, life, all those kinds of things?
Right, exactly. So we did coaching. We now don't do one-on-one coaching anymore. We do have coaches that do that. But from that is where the Couplepreneur life was born. Because we knew it's not just people, husbands and wives that own a plumbing business, but really any husband and wife that have a business together, the struggles that they go through, it affects all couples that are couplepreneurs, regardless of what industry they're in. So the Couplepreneur life was born from that.
So as you were speaking, you asked your questions about, with the retreat, we call this retreats that we hold, where we try to get the couples out of the business environment and into a tropical, fun, sexy. So we're trying to recapture the magic. Yes. And so we have, we have, in the mornings we have conversations about that and teachings on that. And then there's, time to be together. It's the whole idea of again, recapturing the magic of the relationship. And that's where most go wrong. We were, in fact, this comes from, we were listening to a podcast and it's a country music artist, a female country music artist. And was saying how she decided to divorce her husband of 5 years. They'd been in business, the music business together and done stuff together, but the glitter was gone. They divorced because the glitter was gone. The glitter was gone. Of course, they weren't doing anything to work on the glitter. Yeah, but the glitter was gone.
And you have to glue. Sad. You have to glue like glitter on. Like it doesn't just stick on its own, right?
It doesn't.
And glue wears off, so you got to get more glue. Sometimes you need glue. Sometimes you need some super glue.
That's right. So as we talk about, we don't fall out of love. We fail out of love. Love doesn't just fall on us. It's an action. It's not. Love is not a noun. It's a verb. It's an action word. So you got to work at it. So that's what we talk about, and that's what we work on with couples. Certainly in business, because you're in the heat of the battle, and there's a friction. Again, that's where the power is in that friction. But that can cause divide. and we start dividing, and that's where trouble happens. So we work on recapturing the magic.
So do you guys find, like, as parents, one of the most common things that folks that we know that have split up and gone their separate ways, it's usually because their priorities get out of whack. They're putting the kids before their relationship, and the relationship is the foundation that will hold everything up, including the kids, right? So in the workspace, is that kind of similar what you guys have seen, is people put the business above the relationship?
Well,
with couplepreneurs, they put everything above the relationship.
Above the relationship.
It's the kids, and one thing that we teach on is you got to put your kids second. Which
is probably the most controversial thing we say.
Right.
People enjoy when we get talking about sex and all those kinds of things. Okay, they'll go with us there. All right. As soon as we get to kids are number 2.
Yes.
Like, whoa.
Mom and dad are number 1. Period. And one of our things that we like to really work on with young couples, and I mean young couples that have little kids, is you're preparing for empty nesting right now. Right now is when you're preparing, because as we're started the Couplepreneur Life, we're doing a lot of research, and I found this book that was about empty nesting, and it said you're empty nesting. Now is the time to reconnect with your spouse, and I'm like, no,
it's too late.
20 years ago,
right.
That's when you needed to be reconnecting with your
Yes.
spouse. You don't wait until you're empty nesters, right?
Yes.
And so that is our heart, because we're empty nesters. We've been married almost 30 years. We've got 3 kids, all are grown.
Incredible.
Our marriage, thank you. Our marriage has never been better, and it gets better every year.
Yeah.
But it's because we work on it.
And hotter.
That's true.
For your young guys, it gets hotter if you work on it.
This is very true. But you have to work on it. You have to be intentional about it, and you have to be intentional about it way before you become an empty nester.
And so that means, in our society today, everything seems to revolve around the kids. Mm-hmm. It was, really, it's honor your mother and father, not honor your son and daughter.
That's
but,
right.
but we flip that. It doesn't mean you don't love the kids. We love our kids.
I'll kill for my kids.
Hey, don't get in the way of mama bear here and the kids. Okay, but when it came to our family, this relationship was first.
Right.
And what comes out of that, the kids wind up feeling more secure. Mm-hmm. When they see dad, chasing mom around the kitchen or wherever, playing, grab whatever. Okay, all right, and that makes them feel secure. It also makes them feel secure when they see mom and dad have an argument, and then come out of it and see that life goes on,
right.
That it's okay, that you can have a disagreement, and you still, can be friends.
Reconcile
right.
and still have a relationship and be in love. So
I love it. Folks, we're hanging with the amazing Richard and Laura Behney, the founders of the Couplepreneur Life. You can check them out online at thecouplepreneurlife.com, as well as on Instagram at thecouplepreneurlife, as well as the $1 Million Plumber, right? That's just a little account right there. That's just a little one.
Right.
But man, so so what I'm hearing is that a lot of the same success factors that are important in the marriage itself when it comes to the family dynamic is also like mirrored in the professional dynamic. Is that kind of what I'm hearing? Yeah.
Of course.
Oh, very much so.
It's intentional. Everybody knows that, but it's not what anybody wants to ever do, right? They want the magic pill. They want something that's easy. Well, it's not easy. It's anything that's worth having. It isn't. You got to put some work into it. You have to. Absolutely. So our thing is always intentionality. You've got to be intentional about date night. You have to be intentional about having a planning meeting. You have to be intentional about planning time away, like escaping for, we like to go away every quarter for just a short
trip.
The
2 of you.
Just the 2 of you, not with the kids.
Not with the kids, not with
right. And we can chat more about that later, because we did that forever, ever since we had little kids. We found a way that we were going to go on date night regardless, even when we were broke, and I mean no money. So there are ways, and because we hear all the time, it's like, well, I don't have anybody to watch my kids, or we can't afford it, or whatever. Those are excuses.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I want to stay right there for a second, because everybody has great aspirations, I hope. They at least can dream, right? And but I see a lot of folks that they let their circumstances that are current define their circumstances for the future, right? So guys, off camera, I mean, there was a whole episode that we've had off camera that was absolutely hysterical and amazing and fun. And seriously, but the story about the Long John Silvers hit home for me, because in 2013, when my wife and I, we started an insurance agency, which, by the way, nobody dreams to do that. But I was at rock bottom. I had nothing. I got offered a job to start an opportunity to start my own insurance agency. However, I had to pay for my license, and I had to pay for that license right then and there, and it was only $300. And I had to do the fake excuse of I got to go to the bathroom so I could go outside and call my dad at 32 years old and say, Dad, can I borrow your credit card for $300? Because I did not have it, right? So like we've all been there, but at some point in time, my faith had to overpower my fear, right? So talk to me about how you guys, I mean, look, they're just like all of us, right? And that's what's amazing about this story and why they need to tell it. So tell us about that story, and if it has Long John Silver's in it, even better.
Well,
Oh my gosh.
and that's what we're no different. We like to tell as we work with our clients, there's nothing special about us. And we talk, a lot of times on a $1 million plumber side, we're dealing with young couples who literally are broke, don't have, as a plumber, I can relate to this. You come from the field, my daddy wasn't anybody, my mama wasn't anybody, I don't have any money,
You don't have any direction.
all that kind of stuff. And we fall into plumbing. So that's who we're talking to. But it's not that it's a special trait, but what is special is the ability to not let the fear get in the way. I love when you tell my story now, I look back at, you went, I got to go to the bathroom, you call your dad. That made you a winner right then.
Right.
The ability to reach out and to make something happen. And so as we were talking before the show here, you're in Nashville and have a music background and all that as well. I was in Nashville, had a music background and doing it. And, came from a place where I made good money playing clubs and all that. And I was up in Ohio, and I was the thing, I was the thing. You go to Nashville, you ain't nothing. Right?
That's right.
Everybody's good.
And everybody's good. And
You were the best.
I'm glad you think so. I saw a lot of good talent, but I was playing the clubs and all that kind of stuff. And I had the lovely Laura. And we had, at that time, our son, Nick, was 3. And so I had a little one at home. So I'm working all day. And I was a plumber, by the way. And they called me Yank because I came down from the north. And, so
why is it in Nashville that anybody up north is still calling
I'm still Yank?
I don't really know. I can't tell you I've called anybody a Yankee lately. But you're right. It's totally a thing. I guess we need to get a little more creative in our simple life, don't we?
Well, Nashville's really grown. It's becoming a tech city and all that.
Gosh.
This is 30 years ago. Yeah. 35 years ago. And so I wound up getting, here's the blessing, how God's been in our life and just with us the whole time. I wound up getting with a plumbing company, did all the work for like the stars. So I actually did Garth Brooks's remodel, Alan Jackson. These are some old country artists that, Vince Gill,
all the good ones.
Eddie Rabbitt. Whoa. Love a rainy night.
That's right.
And so anyways, so I'm working during the day doing that kind of stuff. And at night I'm playing these dives, and just playing at night while I got a young family at home and not making any money. I mean, we're broke. No money. We didn't go out to eat. Well, we finally hit this time where, we just had one of those times where we just wanted to go out to eat. So the lovely Laura had a hankering for Long John Silver's.
Okay, don't judge me.
Haven't since. But when you're down and you're broke, you just want some comfort. And so we went to Long John Silver's out in Gallatin.
Yep.
And
I know exactly which one that was.
I know. We have a client in Nashville who knows exactly. They live there and just knows exactly where this happened. So Long John Silver's, and we spent our last $15 on Long John Silver's, which you made the remark, anyone who spends money on Long John Silver's anyway, that's already going to bring you to tears. But which is so true. But the food had probably been sitting in the oil all week, so it didn't even taste good. It wasn't even good at all. It was horrible. And it was literally our last $15, and we just broke down crying. And that's when we said, I got to do something different. And literally 2 weeks later, we were back up in Indiana. Got with a plumbing company, and literally a couple months later, I came up with the idea. It was actually in the shower. Babe, we're going to start a plumbing business.
What?
And we're going to franchise it. And like, what? We don't even have, with what money? So that's where that's how it can turn. You got to have, like how you said, you got to have faith in your dream. But you got to put feet to the faith.
That's right.
You got to put feet to the faith, or because if you don't, then it's just a dream.
In that, during that time when we were at rock bottom, that was a very dark time in life. I look back and I used to be embarrassed of the person that I was, how I treated my wife, and And she deserved better. Everybody deserved better than I was giving them. So we decided to we sought some help in a coach through our pastor at the time. It was one of the greatest things that we ever did, and we did it together, and we also did it individually. And what we figured out was that we had a lot more in common than we thought, but we were focused on the wrong thing. So he taught us to really start to dream together, so that it's like the GPS being programmed to the end destination. And then also he was like, you guys need to really, really focus on your faith. And at the end of the day, your faith is your relationship with yourself, and then however you fall spiritually, that is the same. That kind of like falls in line there. So. And he gave that old analogy that some of the Southwest people will give when you fly. Is like, you can't help anybody if you're passed out on the floor. You gotta be healthy enough to help somebody else first. And that was unbelievably life-changing for us. And immediately our whole entire life, including the financial part, started to soar, right?
Right.
So like, what are, you hear the same things over and over again. Like, I love doing this. I get to hang out with awesome people like this. And I literally get inspired. Like, there's going to be a Nick-size hole in the door when we're done, because I'm going to run through it because I'm so excited to go attack life after talking to these guys. It's absolutely amazing. So but how do you go from the plumber thing to like, I mean, you exited the business, right? And then to start something like this together, like, talk me through that journey, because it takes a whole lot of courage to do something like that.
Gosh, I don't know. We're older, right? So I don't know if it necessarily took courage. It was the $1 Million Plumber was just the next obvious thing, right?
The courage took when you're down. For those that are listening and watching,
because we've had another down story other than that,
right.
The one that we told a Couplepreneur Con.
Right. The courage is when things aren't going right, and the courage to say, I got to go to the bathroom, and you go out and you call your dad, or the courage to realize that your relationship isn't right in the right place with your wife or your husband, and to say, I want to work on this. Let's get help. And the courage is, let's work on our faith, together. That's the point of that's where it takes courage.
Yeah.
And, but it doesn't, the good news with that, it's not like you have to crush the courage. I know out here in social world where, there's a lot of people talking about crushing business and crushing, you got to crush your day. Well, the reality is, human beings, most of us aren't wired to crush it. But what we are wired, and this is the good news, all you got to do is 1%. You just got to make that 1% move. And those 1% add up. And that's what we did. And so once you get to the spot, then it becomes kind of muscle memory. So as you just get stronger. It's like you just add 1% weight on every day, 1% weight on, 1% weight on. All of a sudden, you're Mr. Universe, or Mr. and Mrs. Universe.
Wait, there's a better weight. I was thinking, as a woman, when you said weight, I'm like, I don't want to add 1% weight.
Well, no, not.
You meant
like
weights.
If you're working out.
Okay, got it.
There you go.
Right. Okay.
See,
she's the brains. Okay.
Difference between man and woman. We hear weight. Ugh.
Right. But that's if you can just do that. Okay. So it's not like the equation is very simple. Okay. The equation is simple, and we kind of it sounds complex, but it's together multiplied by p to the third power, which is just a fancy equation way of saying you need to plan together, all right, play together, and then pray together. You do those things, everything takes care of itself.
You put the intentionality behind
right.
it. Right.
So by the time you get to our age, if you've done those things, that's why, Laura had mentioned about, it was so sad to hear, the book that was saying, after the kids get out, now it's time to reconnect. Now it's time to reconnect. No, because now, your muscles are old and there's a lot of, there's a lot of friction or, disappointments and memory, all that kind of stuff. It's multiplied. Right. Where if you're working on it as you go, by the time you get there, you're already built up and there's muscle memory. So when you take another step, so like when we sell our business and that kind of thing, and instead of, quite frankly, we got bored, just playing,
Well, and also what happens, instead of dreading your last child going off to college or leaving the nest or whatever it is, right? Instead of dreading that, you're like, this cannot come fast enough, right? I mean, again, we love our kids, but boy, when we dropped our daughter off at Liberty University her freshman year, there were tears of joy.
Yeah.
We were just so excited because we had planned on this. We knew what our lives were going to look like, and we were just so excited about this new adventure in our lives. Now, of course, we miss our kids when they're gone. I mean, all of that, of course,
Right.
but our lives did not revolve around our kids. Our lives revolved around us.
So you get to a point where it's like a new life. So imagine being, the kids are out, you now have experience, maybe even some money,
hopefully,
and now you can do the next adventure. All right, it's a whole nother life.
I wonder when when you hear those things, because I agree with you 100%. My wife and I, we have a 13-year-old son, and our daughter is 2 this year, right? So
Wow.
And so we're going through a lot of things again, and there wasn't cocoa melon that first time around, and now there is. There's a lot of stuff. Cocoa melon. That's what the kids are all about now, is cocoa melon. The little ones. Oh yeah. Trust me.
Not Barney.
You're not. No, they don't even know what a Barney is anymore. But so we're going through it twice. But even before she was born, we used to joke around with our son. Hey man, only time's ticking, dude. You got 7 more years before you're out. You know what I mean? Because we're excited, and we do at least one couple vacation, just us or with some friends a year every year, and it's something that we found is really, really, really needed. And it's nothing, to get your kids, but man, if you raise your kids right, they need to go live their own life, right?
Yes.
They need to go live their own life, and they got to get out. They got to do that on their own, right?
Yes, we say that all the time. You're not raising children. You're raising adults. You should be raising responsible adults. You're not raising kids. That's your job.
Preach.
Yeah.
Preach.
And your thing of, you said it earlier about, which is right on. You got to know yourself. You got to be comfortable, with yourself, okay, and believe in yourself. So, with our kids, a lot of times I sadly see it through the guys, through the men, the fathers, where they're so caught up in their sons and daughters' sports, they're reliving their own, what they didn't get to do, or what they weren't good enough at, or what they didn't take advantage of. So they're pushed. So they're actually living their life through their kids, which is so sad on one level, and it's extremely dangerous on the other, because it's not good for the kids, and it's certainly not good, for the father or mother.
Right.
That's right. That's right. So you guys, like all successful people, have a process or framework in place to help people to grow through their journey and stuff. So what are some of the top characteristics of successful couplepreneurs?
They pursue each other.
Yes. Right on.
They pursue each. That's one of our main frameworks that we work off of. Pursue each other, and we've got an acronym for pursue. Let's see if we can remember off the top of our heads. Pursue. P stands for PDA, public displays of affection. U is for unity. R is, we have 2 words for R, respect and romance. S is for, what's S, baby? What's S?
You got me on.
Wow. Okay. Golly. We're going back to it. PURS, and then the other U is for understand.
Yep.
And the last is enjoy.
But you got me stuck on the PDA.
Well, okay.
Right.
What?
Public displays of affection.
Okay. Okay, that's your favorite.
That's my favorite.
That is a true statement. That is
I
true.
love it.
But S is part of it, keeping it sexy.
I'm gonna have to look it up. That's driving.
But it's keeping it sexy. The habit, look, when we're dating, when you're dating your wife, and I'm gonna talk to anyone on here, when we're dating, our wives, we were all touchy feely, and we're all that, and Twitter-pated. The word I like is Twitter-pated. But we get married, and all of a sudden our focus goes elsewhere. And all of a sudden we don't look at our wife, and I'm talking to the men now, we don't look at our wives as being sexy. And so it's a game. Part of what we teach is the game. I constantly look at my wife in a sexual manner. And as men, we know that, pornography is a huge industry.
Yeah.
Somebody, if we all ask if we watch pornography, we all say no, but somebody's watching it, because it's, it's out there, and it's a huge problem. And so we, as men, that's where our minds are constantly looking at. I constantly look at my wife, Laura, as, in a sexual manner. Yeah. I put that energy that way. And then she also works as a woman. With women, it's a little different, right? But she puts those that sexiness. She has a way of looking at me, and
Well,
that's
helping you're always sexy.
Yeah, thank you, baby. All right, but again, it's intentional. That's that word again. You got to be intentional about it.
Yes.
So
I agree with you there. Like, I love, one of the reasons that I love working with my bride is because I get to stare at her all day long, right? And she's always within arm's reach, because that's some good stuff that I can reach when it's over there, right?
There we go.
For
keep that attitude.
That's right, man. Well, where we struggled in the beginning was as coming from the sports background, like when it was time to play, it was intense, but then you were a good sport and a good human as soon as you were done. Like, hey man, I may have beat you or you beat me, but great job, good game. I'll see you next time on the battlefield. And so I had a lot of practice at that. So my wife and I would work together, and work Nick was rocking and rolling. And then as soon as we get home, I'd flip that switch, and she hadn't flipped that switch yet. So, she didn't know who was talking to her for a long time until that was something that we had to work on together and create a little bit of, like, I say, like, I don't like the word time off. I don't need time off from my family. I don't need time off from my career. I love them. But I do take moments off. Or like right now, if I found out that my son had hurt himself and needed to go pick him up, I'd say, guys, I got to go be a dad. Right.
Right.
Just like if I'm at home and the office is on fire, I'm going to go deal with that too. Right. So we never like to take a whole bunch of time off, but we might take some moments off and things like that. So for us, it took years to learn how to communicate. No, are we at home? Are we working right now? And it's something that we still have to work on today.
Mm-hmm. Well, two things. The S stands for schedule. Thank you,
there it is,
Lord, for bringing that to schedule. But people talk about work-life balance, right? They're just trying to find the perfect work-life balance. We have the secret. There's no such thing. It doesn't exist.
No such thing
I
as
agree.
work-life balance.
There's sometimes when work, for whatever reason, needs to take the majority of your time, your energy, whatever. Maybe launch a new product, a new business, whatever it is. And there's times, especially when your children are really little, that you need to spend more time at home, right? Or with the family. And I think that's what really frustrates a lot of people is they're constantly striving for this work-life balance that it's not attainable. It just isn't. Right. There's going to be seasons in your life where it's heavy on one side and light on the other, or whatever. There's sometimes where, like, man, everything's going great. It's just kind of flowing right along. Other times, man, both of them need your attention. You're just burnt out. Yeah. You got a brand new baby. Again, if you're a couplepreneur, you've got a business and you're still needing to do your part or whatever.
Yeah. So, you launch that business or that product line right when, your son is entering high school, and it's a different high school and is in that awkward age, and he needs more dad time or more direction, but it's like, it's just, it's just how it is.
Right. And the other thing too about couplepreneurs, we hear, again, we deal an awful lot with plumbing business owners in the beginning, from the $1 Million Plumber, and typically it's the husband who's the plumber who goes out and starts the plumbing business, and he quickly learns he doesn't know anything about business, right? And so eventually the wife maybe come on board, but she doesn't know anything about business. But her main thing, and we hear this all the time, the main thing that she's concerned about, I just don't want to talk work all the time. I don't want it to be consuming our lives.
Amen.
Yes. Now here's the thing. If you have a calling on your life for a business like we do, with $1 Million Plumber, and we did with our plumbing business. I mean, that was we were serving. Not only do we want to provide good jobs for people, but also we're serving our community, because nobody loves plumbers, but boy, when they need one, that's when they're loving them, right?
That's right.
So we're providing a great service to our community. But if you have this calling on your life, you can't help but talk about it. You can't. It becomes you're just a part of who you are. We had Roy and AJ Vaden on our Couplepreneur Life podcast. It was actually our second podcast. It's a great podcast.
Wow.
Check it out. But Roy and AJ, owners of Brand Builders, just a great couple. And we asked them about work-life balance. And their thing was, this is a family business. We talk about it all the time. They have 2 young sons.
That's right.
Bring them into it. They know. So it's not that 5 o'clock, then we're not talking business anymore. And then after 8 in the morning, then we're not talking family anymore. That's impossible. It's just impossible. So what we teach our clients is just talk about it, because it's a part of your life. Now, try not to spend every waking moment, when you're home, hey, did you pay that invoice, or did you call, that customer back? Not that kind of stuff, but it's if your business is something, again, they have a calling on, you can't help but talk about it.
Right.
If you're passionate about it and you're excited about it, it's something that's top of mind a lot, right? So
Absolutely.
I'm gonna tell a funny story. I think I might have said it on the air before about my wife. So we had been, and my in-laws, you can just turn the volume down at this part real quick. So we had just started, our insurance business was doing really well. And we had just started helping other people launch theirs. And I remember we were in the shower, and I caught myself. We talked about how excited we were about all these things we're going to do and the people we were going to be able to help and so on and so forth. And I looked at her and I'm like, I was just like, I have to stop talking about this right now and enjoy what I'm seeing. But like we were literally in the shower talking about how excited we were about work. And that was so for us, and now, you have kids and things change. We talk about other things. My wife, she always wanted a daughter, and now that she's got one, that's the topic of a lot of conversation. My son plays sports, so I'm always wanting to talk about his sports stuff, right? So, but that was a moment that we actually stopped and recognized that, like, here we are, literally in the shower talking about work, and that's how excited and happy we were about it. So for us, that balance, just like you said, the balance doesn't exist. Everything you get in life's earned anyways, right? So if you're not happy, You're probably not doing what you're put here to do in the first place. But you can work on it, and you can change it, and you can improve it, right?
Absolutely.
Right on.
Yes, love that.
Is the work-life balance, would you say that's like the top challenge for couplepreneurs, or what are some of the other challenges they face as well?
Roles, because
yes,
a lot of this comes from the idea, even talking about the business all the time is not understanding what each other's roles are. So it's very important to have that conversation of knowing what each other's, when you're in business together, what are each other's roles, meaning ultimately who's responsible for what,
right?
Who pulls the trigger, who has the final say. And
to establish that from the beginning,
right from the beginning, that helps tremendously.
We did not.
Right. We did. Yeah, definitely did not. And I'll say something about roles as well, too. When you're in business together, your traditional roles kind of go out the window. So, we may grow up, I grew up in a family where mother was totally responsible. The woman was totally responsible for cooking and cleaning and those kinds of things. All the house stuff. Right. When you're in business together, that stuff still needs to be done. And she's just as busy, if not more so, depending on the season of the business, what's going on in the business, and what she may even be more busy.
Right.
And so to expect her to, do the dishes and, cook all the meals and do those kinds of things.
Laundry.
Right. It's just not fair. It just doesn't work out well.
Right.
So you got to have those kinds of conversations and expectations. For me, early days, we, working in the business, and I'd come home and, I'd grab a beer and I'd sit and watch the news or the sports channel while she's now dealing with the kids that didn't go,
Believe it or not, that did not go over well.
It didn't go very well for very long, which led to, in our early days, the issue that we had where she left me. But it's, the roles is a big deal. That is key.
And establishing the roles in your business as well, because again, typically opposites attract, right? You hear it all the time. Opposites attract. I'm sure Nick, you and Rihanna are totally two different people, right?
That's right.
Men are from Mars and women are from Venus, right? So with that, you've got different skills and abilities.
Yeah.
So it would be crazy to assign or expect me, I'm not a visionary person at all, but to expect me to come up with the next big 5-year plan for our business, that would just be crazy for our business. It would also be crazy to expect Richard to get into the day-to-day operations, kind of the minutia of the details, because that's not him. He is a visionary. He has the creative mind. So establishing from the beginning, okay, who's going to be responsible for what? Who's responsible for operations? Who's responsible for back end? Who's responsible for, fill in the blanks, whatever it is. And then when those decisions need to be made, if there's a conflict, which there's going to be, hopefully they lessen it over time, but then whoever is over that area, that person has the final say, because you've established that from the beginning. Not that you don't take wise counsel from your spouse and others as well, but ultimately it's going to come down to the person that you decided from the beginning who's responsible for that role.
That's so good. And when I think back at my wife and I's early struggles in the workforce, I like flat out, I was the one that was the problem because of my own, I was insecure. And I was insecure. I didn't feel like I was good enough for her to begin with, right? So then when it came to the workplace, I felt like I was the one that needed to stand out. Thank you very much. I agree very much. And she literally is funny story, legally blind. The first time I ever had the pleasure to wake up with her, she didn't have her contacts or glasses on, and I remember I rolled her mouth like, wow, this is a good day. And she picked up her phone and she literally like closed one eye and put it like right up against her other eye like that. And I was like, whoa, what was that? What was that? She's literally legally blind. She can see with her stuff. But yeah, man, it's a great thing. And it took me becoming secure with myself and realizing that like those separating those roles and responsibilities were life-changing for us, and that was something that we figured out really, really quick. But again, right. I was the issue, you know what I mean? And it took me becoming secure enough to admit that to move forward. Do you? I mean, is that something you guys see often with couplepreneurs? Any type of insecurities within themselves?
Oh, of course. I mean, we all have insecurities, yes. Right? And who's going to notice them more than your spouse, right?
And oftentimes, I'll say this: it usually is the guy. The husband, the dude that has insecurities. It's just over. Not that it's that way all the time. We see it the other way, but a lot of times it's the guys. And what really helps with that is having these discussions. Which is guys, we can be that makes we're uncomfortable with having discussions, right? Or being let's talk about this and getting deep on these kinds of areas. But it really does help. And another thing that we institute and we really push others to do as well, certainly couplepreneurs, is a weekly planning meeting of having that time where you sit down together and actually talk about the things that each other doesn't want to talk about. Because what happens is when we're working together, we have these 30-second meetings,
in the hallway.
We're just kind of talking at one another and bursting things out. It doesn't do anything.
Which we did.
We did. Right. But having that weekly planning meeting, for example, Laura just shared that I'm not an operational guy. All the minutia, do this, the details. I just it's like from Charlie Brown, the teacher. Wah 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 wah. I barely made it through school because of that. Okay, the details. In our planning meetings, I'm prepared. And
well, hold on. Let's kind of talk about how we got to that point. Right. Here's what would happen. Before we figured a few things out, where I had a big laundry list of things that I needed him to do. So I would come over to him. Okay, today you've got to blah, and don't forget that if you do this, then you got to do this because blah blah. And he'd just be like, "Oh, stop!" He called it machine gunning. Stop machine gunning me, right? So and I'm like, well, okay, sorry that you don't like it, but all these things need to be done. So whatever, right? And then he, who's Mr. Visionary and has creative mind, I'm on the phone. I've got a kid on the hip, right? I'm making dinner, whatever, right? And he comes over, baby, I've got this great idea. You know what we're gonna do? And he tells me this, and I'm like, are you kidding? My hair's on fire right now. Are you really giving me this big idea? Yeah. You never want to listen. You never want to hear my ideas. Well, not right now. I don't. And I'm going to stab you in the face with my spoon here. So we instituted the planning meetings so that we were prepared for both, right? So through the week, what we do, we take notes of things we need to talk with each other about. We use Evernote, simple app, Evernote. And we'll put notes in there. Okay, I need to make sure that Richard knows this, and all the detailed things of Richard. If he has some ideas about some things, either business or something else that we might do, he's putting that in Evernote. He likes to talk it into Evernote because he's a verbal processor, right? So he'll talk it into Evernote. So we both have our Evernotes. We get together for planning meeting. Typically, it's a Friday afternoon.
Away from the office.
Away from
home,
the kids.
Right.
Gets
usually someplace fun. Yeah.
Neutral territory.
Yes.
Here we go. And someplace where they may serve adult beverages.
Yes.
That helps at times.
Absolutely. Okay. So then we were prepared. So we would sit down, and I always let Richard go first because he just has to talk it out. But I'm prepared to now hear his big ideas. I don't have a kid on the hip. I'm not making a phone call. I'm not making dinner. I'm not whatever, right? I can hear his ideas and then help process, work through it. One thing also, ladies, here's a tip. If your husband's the creative and you're the one that's the more pragmatic, if your husband comes up with an idea, don't say, well, how in the world is that going to happen? Right? That's like the fastest way to shut him down. And I only know that because I did that in the beginning of our marriage. because our brains, or at least mine, being pragmatic and detailed, was okay, here's the idea. Now what do I need to do to make it happen? I've got to create all these buckets, sub buckets, all the things, and how's it going to fit and whatever. Well, he's just wanting to share this idea, but I'm kind of shooting it down by doing that instead of, encouraging or asking clarifying questions. So he would do that. And then I would kind of go through the list of things that might need to get done this week or tasks that he needs to do. And he's prepared to be machine gunned, if you will. He's in a frame of mind that, okay, this is why we're meeting. Then I need to get these things done. And so I'm more willing to listen. And
so that the bottom line, it helps with the relationship. That's not a friction time.
Right.
In fact, I'm usually enjoying watching her lips move. I'm looking, her hair's flowing. And so, okay, you want me to do blah, blah, blah. Okay, I got that. I'll do that. Boy, her lips are nice. And so I'm in the frame of mind where I can take it, which ultimately helps the relationship, and that's the bottom line. And those are simple things to do, but we just don't do it. We just don't do it.
Again, it's the
because
intentionality.
we're busy. Right? We're busy. And we just talk. We're together all the time. We're talking. We just talk about that. I feel that, but you're not. It's not happening.
Right, exactly.
You got to take that time.
Man. It's unbelievable. I mean, you guys have been married for literally like almost a lifetime, 30 years. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. And it's not perfect, but when you look back, it kind of is, right? Like it's your story. And it's such a cool thing to watch. I still can't get over, like when you guys told us your ages, my wife and I were just like, come on, no, like there's just no way. All right. So what's the secret to that?
Really good sex.
Yeah. And lots of it.
So, ladies, listen up.
It's cardio. It's a workout. It's it's tensing the muscles.
No, okay. What's our secret? Intentionality. I mean, again, it's that we work out. We've pretty much always worked out. Well, no, probably first 5 years.
Right. And I had a dad bod through a period of time.
You did have the dad bod. That's true. But we work out. And so that's one thing. We just feel better about ourselves. And everybody knows that if you work out or at least have some sort of physical activity, you normally end up feeling better. But again, everybody wants the magic pill. How can I get, 6-pack abs in 6 minutes or whatever? It just doesn't exist. It doesn't. So we have consistently worked out for 25 years.
That's on the physical side.
But one thing I want to say too, about working out, I guarantee you 80% of the time, because we get up every morning at 5 a.m., 80% of the time, we do not want to work out. Do not want to. There's in any part of us, they're like, woohoo, can't wait to go work out, right? But we know the benefits that it will give us. We know how much better that we'll feel. I don't do it, and it's a lifestyle thing. It's not a diet, right? You choose the way that you want to live. I do it because I want to look good in this one pair of jeans that I have that I really love, and I want to look good in those jeans. Richard always says he wants to work out and look good for me, and which he does.
I'm still chasing my girl. I'm lucky to have this gorgeous woman, in my opinion, and so I still want to work on it. The joke I say, I don't want to lose her to the pool boy. Not that we have that issue.
Or a pool.
But it's so we work on it. But the other aspect of staying young is what goes on up here.
Yeah.
I mean, again, life, especially in business together and raising family, it's tough.
It is tough.
Anyone who says it's easy is lying. It's all tough. I know online here, socially, you see
it looks all perfect.
We see the sunny side, and isn't that fun? But it is tough to make it happen. It's a workout, right? But so it's going to beat you up, and it can beat you up not only physically. That's why it's important to work out, that kind of thing, to stay strong. But also it can beat you up emotionally, mentally. And so it's important on how you think of yourself up here. We were out last night in one of our favorite places to eat, and
the Blue Marlin here. Here, ever in this area, because it's Holmes Beach, is that where it's at? Anna Maria Island.
It's hole in the wall, but it's a Michelin chef, and it's good, all that kind of stuff. Anyways, and it's just a cool little dive. You know? But we're there, but it's also locals, and like you said, we're in Sarasota. We didn't move to Sarasota, Florida to retire. There's no retirement in us. In fact, we think of ourselves as kids, right?
That's right.
But that's the issue. We're sitting there and we're feeling young, and people come up. We got young folks talking to us, and they feel connected, and And there's others there that are our age as well, and they look that and then some because of the way they dress and the way they just kind of hold themselves. Also, that not being that intentionality. When we see us at the bar together, it's like I'm trying to pick her up. You know, it's like when we were kids again.
We have played that game once.
Right, we did. It's a fun game to play. You know, and see if I can get her again. But you know, we're not sitting there on our cell phones and divided. Our energies are together, and there's a young vibe. Like you mentioned, when we like to work out, you know, we work out. We like to work out around young people, you know. So we actually, you know, chosen a gym that we go to that has, you know, a lot of young people, and you know, the music's not our music, but it's young,
really loud. It's louder and louder the older you get. And I come from AC/DC days, so
right,
yeah, and music was good.
So
anyway,
that's it in a nutshell.
Well, it's it is crazy how, you know, those things affect the way that you feel about yourself. But like, I'm just like you, Richard, like, you know, I don't ever want to give my wife an excuse to look in a different direction. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I crave that attraction that she sends my way. Right. So it's something that, I want her to feel the same way about me that I feel about her. And it just, you know, it makes things fun, and it kind of keeps you young. I mean, you guys, tell the folks your ages one more time, if you don't mind, because you totally do not have the vibe of it's incredible.
I just turned 60 in October.
Yeah,
so yeah,
I'm 60,
and Richard will be 60 this year.
Golly, man, that's incredible. Congratulations on that, right? If anything, I'm big on, like, you know, we talk a lot around here about how quitting and finishing looks and smells a lot alike, but they're totally different. You can quit things and you can finish things, and I like finishing things because that's usually the beginning of the next thing, right? So beginnings hide themselves in ends. Like, you guys went through some bad times. I heard your story, and like it was rough. Like, imagine what your life would look like and how empty it would be had you quit rather than making the decision to finish your journey together.
Absolutely. And we think about that, right? Because we were separated about year 3 of our marriage. We ended up getting separated. You've heard the story, but yeah, through a course of events, and I left Richard.
Well, just last night we referenced the Blue Marlin. We were just there last night and had a nice dinner and hanging out together, and then we had a nice evening together, and we were listening to country music at the end of our evening. You know, just kind of lying there,
like 80s country music.
80s from our era.
Yeah, man.
Right.
Prime country on Sirius XM.
Exactly.
There we go. And then we asked, well, didn't you have Crook? I think I saw on your you had Crook and Chase on your program.
I did. Charlie was in not long ago, man. Big time fan.
That's our
era.
Yeah. And so, you know, we actually asked the question, you know, how did we get here, sweetheart? How did we get here? And it all goes back to that time. You know, you heard the story. You know, that she left me about year 3 in our marriage and some stuff. But the decision was we got divorced, which is what this is too tough. Because
we hated each other.
We literally did.
Literally.
No love. There was no more sexual attraction. No. It was gone. Everything. And we were done with each other. So we could get divorced, or we could try to figure out how to fix it. And we chose to try to figure out how to fix it because we didn't want to be, you know, we had the kids, the business, you know, all that, things going on. And so it took a couple years of counseling and date nights and planning meetings that we didn't want to have date nights, and we didn't want to be talking together that close, but we did those things.
Yeah.
And that made, you know, and then all of a sudden, by being intentional, working on these things, all of a sudden, we can't even imagine, we don't even know who these people were back then. And today we are so close, feel so secure and so intimate, you know, that we don't have the words for it.
And that's what I would encourage. You know, again, we talk with couplepreneurs, and that's our heart and our mission is couplepreneurs having a successful business, of course, but successful marriage. So, you know, our heart is to tell people, even as bad as it is right now, and it can't be worse than what we went through. It simply can't be. Right. Now there's levels of whatever, but ours was just about, we literally hated each other, could not stand the sight of each other. The way he breathed just drove me up the wall. I mean, everything. But if we can get through that and put the hard work in, it's worth it.
It's
right.
so worth
So
it.
as I'm talking with couples that may be struggling, I mean, we hear from them all the time. You know, we get emails from couples saying, gosh, we don't know how we're going to make it, whatever. You have to hang on to what's on the other side. Hang on to what's on the other side. If you put in the work, and you both have to put in the work, it can't be one-sided. It's both of you putting in the work. But on the other side, I think that's a great way to put it, Nick, is what we would have missed out on.
Yeah.
Had we not, and we talked about it at our conference. The main thing we would have missed out on is the birth of our third child, our daughter Mallory.
Wow.
She wouldn't be, because we just had the two boys when we were separated and going through those difficult times.
And she's our favorite.
That's
right.
You know,
the boys aren't.
She is our favorite daughter by far.
Yeah, she is.
So, but absolutely, she's the only daughter. So, but what we would have missed out on. Right. All the things not only with the kids, of course, but just our lives and the things that we've been able to do. And then the other couples that we're now affecting through, right, you know, mostly the $1 Million Plumber, eventually more with the Couplepreneur Live. We're taking these young couples that have a dream of having a plumbing business and literally changing their lives. And
their children's lives.
Their children's lives. I get really emotional about it. We've got, you know, a client that it was a husband and wife up in Michigan, and they started a plumbing business, had no idea what they were doing. What, 25, baby? Yeah, they're 25 years old. And he was a plumber in a truck. He had his own truck, and they were struggling, big time struggling, just no money, all the things, right? I had no idea what they're doing. And they found, the wife actually found, her name Sarah, found us online and told her husband, Matt, okay, we got to watch this guy because he's making a lot of sense. And Matt's like, this guy, he's young, but he doesn't know anything, right? So Sarah convinced him, no, we need to do it. And we're going to go private coaching. We're going all the way. And our private coaching for us, you know, back then was substantial. And they didn't have the money, but they gave us a credit card. And instead of,
they probably called their dad.
Probably. I think instead of paying their mortgage or something, they paid that. And then like, okay, Sarah said, Matt, you got to go out and cover this tomorrow, right? We got to get some jobs. So, and they did everything we told them to do. They didn't question, right? So when you hire a coach, guys, if you ever hire a coach or a mentor, do what they tell you to do, right? Do what they tell you're paying them, do what they tell you to do. So they did everything we told them to do, and then some. They had two little kids, right? Two young kids, under three. And she was pregnant with twins. Hello.
Wow.
Can you even imagine? And starting a business, right? So they did everything we told them to do. Their business grew. They are just getting ready this is 2.5 years later, getting ready to sell it for multi-millions of dollars, their plumbing business. And they're 20. Oh, no, he just turned 30.
He just turned 30.
Yeah, so they must have started because it was 3 years. They were, he just turned 30. So they started when they were 27. And we've changed their lives. I remember, and I tell Sarah this all the time, that she texted me when they were able to buy their first big screen TV.
Oh, wow.
And she couldn't believe it. And she said, I'm literally crying. Matt just hung up the big screen TV. I never imagined I could ever have a big screen TV. They now have multiple properties. They've bought their dream home. They're selling their business for millions.
They have another business.
They have another business that they started,
they're together.
And they're together all the time
now.
Yes.
Like we just they sent us a picture yesterday. They were out hiking together.
Yeah.
You know, so they're doing that, you know, they're together and enjoying life together. You know,
so that's gives us so much, I mean, it spurs us on, right? Because there's so many of those types of young couples that we know that what we went through and that we decided not to throw in the towel. And then we eventually got to where we're coaching other husbands and wives, plumbing business owners, couplepreneurs, and we've now changed their lives and we've changed their generation, their next generation, because they both come from very humble beginnings, no entrepreneurs in the family. And now they've got these investments and businesses and all these things. And we know because of what we did.
Wow.
Right. That they were able to change their lives. But we had to go through all the things we went through because people could look at us and say, oh, well, yeah, you've got the perfect marriage. I'm sure you guys haven't had any hard times. Oh, no. You know, you tell us something that you've been through. We're like, oh, yeah, hold my beer. Right. We can top that one. But that's how God works. God brings you through things so that you can eventually serve, like Rory Faden says, you're powerfully positioned to serve the person you once were. And so that's what you have to hold on to. What are you going to learn on the other side of the struggle? Who are you going to be able to serve later on the other side of this struggle?
Preach it, baby.
I just did.
I know.
Yeah.
that was
You just got a word from the lovely Laura.
that was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, man, like
That's my heart. It's totally my heart.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Well, it's, you know, the struggle is where you find the like, that's where you find your Christ likeness. That's where you find your joy at the end of the day. Like, you know, the reason that, like, you know, my dad would say, you know, I remember when I got my first bat and how it was the biggest deal. And, you know, I was born with one, you know, I mean, I had put one in my hand when I first came out.
Yeah.
So I'm because I didn't have that struggle to get it, I didn't appreciate it. So, like, you know, the struggle, if it's easy, we take it for granted. You know what I mean? So that journey, but like the thing that I'm hearing, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you know, my wife and I, we found a common space, a safe space, a common space where we could come together and grow from that moment. And that's what you guys are kind of for all of your couplepreneurs. You are that safe like home base that they can say, this is the foundation that we're going to build up from here. Is that kind of right?
Absolutely.
Right on.
Yes. Yeah, because, and we can tell you lots of different stories about the other couples, because every story is different, but that they did feel safe with us, that they could tell us, okay, here's really some real things that we're struggling with. What would you guys do? Or how did you overcome it, or whatever it might be? Again, because, you know, they can look at us and know we've been there.
And looking back, I like how you put that, Nick. You know, life is not, if you're just looking for happiness, I need to be happy every moment. That's not life.
That's right.
That's great.
Fleeting.
Right. That's not life. Life is in the struggle, in the things that are happening, and looking back. That's, you know, as we look back through all of our struggles, that was actually the joy of
coming out. I don't know if the struggle is
not the struggle, the joy in the struggle, but coming
out of it.
Right.
That we did it, right? Because again, we've had you know, probably 4 times in our marriage where we've had some pretty rock bottom moments.
Yeah.
The one we talked at Couplepreneur was certainly the biggest.
Yeah.
But
we've lost everything.
Yeah, we've lost
everything.
Everything.
You know, where the sheriff shows up at the house, you know.
We're not going to go into those stories.
Right.
So, I'm still in the fetal position about that one.
Right.
But you know, we can look back now and say that it was worth it. Would we want to go through it again? Gosh, no, really would not want to go through it again. But we know now that had we not put in the work, we wouldn't have what we have together. We would not have it.
That's right.
Right.
So.
Well, I got to experience it firsthand, like that this is a movement, folks, right? There was a theater, a space full of couplepreneurs. And then check this out, on the walls, there was hundreds and hundreds more that were joining the event virtually. It was absolutely incredible. So like, this is a movement. Like, guys, tell the folks like how to join this movement. Like how do they get started? What's the first steps?
Sure. You can follow us on social media. Is it the Couplepreneur Life?
It is. That's right. At the Couplepreneur Life.
Yeah.
Yes, and our website.
I don't even know our own address.
I got a cheat sheet. For everything.
Thank you to our wonderful assistant, Chelsea. Follow us on the Couplepreneur Life. We've got podcasts that we do, and then we've got a Club Couplepreneur. Golly, where's the word? Club Couplepreneur. That we offer, and it's kind of a light version where we're growing into more where we'll be doing masterminds and things like that. But right now it's just access to events, to we do weekly trainings, different lives, things like that. That's in Club Couplepreneur.
And the network, the other couples I was seeing, like everybody has a common space, and the fact that they're all working on something, a marriage and a profession with you guys, right? So like
exactly.
that was the coolest thing, is just meeting all the people, and you guys did such a good job too. You told some of their stories through the videos and such. I was like, they're sitting right there.
Hey,
like,
there they are.
Oh man, that was really, really neat. So that was the coolest thing, folks, is that I saw is that like you guys actually genuinely know these people. You know what's going on in their lives. You're a part of their lives, and they're a part of yours. And that's very special, and quite frankly, it's unique.
Well, and some couple of them actually call us mom and dad. Because they just did not have great parents, didn't have marriage modeled very well for them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And I mean, we know all their kids. We know it's like we have more kids and grandkids when, they're not biological.
And that is the power, Nick, of just being in a light group. Because couplepreneurs, and a couplepreneur is a husband and wife who own or operate a business together. Even we have some that are at the C level, they're CEO, COO, so the professional, they're couples who are working together, and that's a unique relationship. It also can be a very lonely relationship because it's very different than what everyone else has experienced.
Because couplepreneurs can, once you connect with a couplepreneur, you can say something like, "Oh man, payroll was tough to meet this week," and the other one, "Oh, I feel I totally know what you're talking about," or whatever, right? Because there's just a unique relationship that you have that other people don't understand. That aren't couplepreneurs. Because most people, when you hear or you ask, "What do you do?" "Well, my husband and I own a business." "Oh my gosh, I could never work with my spouse. I could never," right? So most people don't understand it, and not that they downplay it, but they certainly will push back against it because of what their fears might be or what their limitations are.
Right. I get that. That makes a lot of sense, man. That makes a lot of sense. Well, I know you guys got to get to the next thing. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to be here today. Is there any closing or final thoughts you'd want to leave everybody with today?
What you got, baby?
Oh, you throw it over to me.
Okay,
now it is a great life. Working together. You were designed to work together. You were created to work together. And so it's just putting the right pieces in place to ease the friction. But the bottom line, at the end of everything, it's a beautiful, wonderful life. And as we sit here now, 30 years of marriage, businesses have been successful, success, kids, everything that we've gone through whatever political climates and all the kind of stuff, we are closer, more united, more intimate than ever. Yes. And it's a beautiful place to be.
That's fantastic. That was awesome. I told you guys it was going to be a good time, man. A dynamite couple. It's just so fun hanging out with you guys. I can't imagine getting to spend days with you. We're gonna have to do that.
With Jeremy and Jane too.
Absolutely. I'm so grateful to the only regret I have about working with brand builders is that I didn't do it years before. You know what I'm saying? Yes. That's the only. It's absolutely amazing. I highly recommend it. Yes. And what they've done for us. And if nothing else, just because you get connected with amazing people like these guys right here, right? Once again, Richard and Laura Behney, thank you guys, the founders of the Couplepreneur Life. The couplepreneurlife.com is where you find them on the web and on social media at the Couplepreneur Life. Thank you guys so much for hanging with me today. I'm so grateful.
Well, thank you, Nick. We really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you, Nick. We appreciate you, man.
Well, folks, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of The Hit Streak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.